Well, hello. This is Janet Morana, Executive Director of Priests for Life, and welcome to Just Ask Janet. Well, first of all, I want to tell you that we're going to have a hot topic today. So if you have a question about our discussion, please let us know. Send us your questions. Well, joining me today is a dear friend of mine. Her name is Mary Kominsky. Welcome, Mary.
Oh, thank you, Janet.
And Mary and I have been friends for decades, actually, decades. But we first got involved together with Rachel's Vineyard. That was our first entree in. I helped with Mary run a retreat team on Staten Island, New York. And of course, Mary also has an abortion testimony. And she's been involved with me and Georgette with Silent No More, coming every January for, I don't know, Mary, how many years?
Oh, over, I don't know, 15, I guess, at least.
Giving her testimony with her I Regret My Abortion sign with all the other women in D.C.
Yeah.
I know, well, also Mary works at Montclair State University.
That's correct.
In the Newman Center.
Right.
With
Newman
Father Jim Kern, right? Churn. And you do a great work there. And I know you personally give your testimony, not just there in campus, but other campuses. And you talk to the students really one-on-one.
Right.
Because of that abortion experience, don't you?
Oh, exactly. In fact, that's one of the gifts actually that is available, when you have healing, okay? And not everybody can do it, not everybody's called to do it. But I was blessed through my healing with Rachel's Vineyard to go out there and speak the truth about abortion and really to tell my testimony. I was a young girl, a teenage girl, who really didn't know any of the consequences that abortion entails. And, my regret, of course, many, many years later, and the consequences that I have experienced, I'm able to go out and share that with young women. And really, and men too, to say this is what happens when you have an abortion and the after effects of it. So,
and in fact, Mary, when you had your abortion, you first lived in New Jersey.
Yes.
And at the time, first of all, you were in high school, right?
Yes, correct.
And of course, you were trying to hide your sexual activity with your boyfriend from your parents, which is, as you know, that's a big reason a lot of teenagers end up having abortion, right? They're trying to keep that, I don't want my parents to know. And you were right in that category.
Exactly, right.
And yet you went from New Jersey, because back in those days, that was pre-Roe v. Wade, 72, I think.
1972, correct.
Yeah. You couldn't get the abortion in New Jersey, so you went to New York. In fact, you had your abortion at Dr. Bernard Nathanson's clinic, didn't you?
Right, that was the main clinic at the time. And what would happen is Planned Parenthood would set up, offices in states like New Jersey.
Where it wasn't legal.
And you would go in and they would say, what are you going to do? And in those days, they really didn't explain anything to you. We can take care of this problem. Your parents will never find out.
And it was before ultrasound. So there was no chance of even seeing the baby.
Globocell and tissue, there was no baby.
Right.
Is what I was told. And then they would send you over to New York to Dr. Nathanson's clinic. And in New York at that time, you had to be 18 years old. And they just said to me right off the bat, I was 17. They said, well, just lie about it. You don't tell them.
Don't tell them that you're not 18.
Right.
Don't say anything.
When there was no proof. Right. And again, no medical direction at all. Do you have any illnesses? Are you on any medication? There was no examination at all. It was really very much being in the dark. Not knowing as a young girl even what questions to ask.
Right.
So,
and of course, you spent many years in denial.
Yes.
Many, many years. And of course, you went on to marry your wonderful husband, Phil.
Yeah.
And then you eventually went on to have your beautiful daughter, Caitlin.
Correct.
But as very common with a lot of women who've had abortions, and then, of course, later go on and meet Mr. Right and have a family, you had a lot of fears about your pregnancy, didn't you? And about Caitlin, which was
absolutely. Well, I had buried this, and this is, very common, that you just push everything way down so you don't have to think about it. Women have different reactions. Some people want to have a baby right away. Other people don't want anything to do with having a child.
Right.
So, yes, I really crushed it down, and it was 25 years before I even thought about getting healing. And what prompted me to get healing was that I became pregnant, in my marriage, And all of a sudden, all the feelings rose to the top. And I realized, oh, there's something wrong here. Why am I upset? Why am I in such fear of, going through this pregnancy?
Right.
And I went to counseling, but of course,
you're fine.
You're good.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I saw the ultrasound. It was actually in a car accident when I was pregnant. And the doctor did an ultrasound on me. And then I saw on the screen, oh, wow, they lied to me.
Yeah, because now you saw your baby.
Yes, that was not a globocell tissue. And just, I think emotionally, when you're carrying a child, your hormones are all, up and down. So.
Because what year was Caitlin born?
Oh, not until 1989.
Yeah, so by then,
Many
ultrasound was well in place. Because I remember I had my first baby in 78 and then my twins in 80. And when I had them in 80, ultrasound was just coming on the scene. So by then, doctors had access to ultrasound.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it was then that I realized I really needed help. Just to be a mother, a lot of times with women that have had abortions, they're not going to feel that closeness to really, bond with the baby.
Right.
Because there's so many guilt feelings. It was just everything came up to the surface. So thank God I was able to get into a Rachel's Vineyard, and it changed my life. Yeah. It really did.
And of course, recently you co-hosted a new series of shows for the Catholic View for Women with Teresa Tomeo and Vanessa Denhagarmo. And we taped those at EWTN back in December. And I believe in the next few months, right now they're editing them. They will appear on EWTN. So we'll be promoting that. And of course, we covered a lot of hot topics. And some of those topics actually are in the news currently. And in particular, we're going to talk about something that is scary. I think it passed the House of Representatives already.
It passed
It's called the Equality Act. And Mary, I'm sorry, I'd like to call it the Unequality Act, right?
That is for sure, Janet. The Unequality Act has nothing to do really with equality.
That's right.
Okay, especially for women. That's
exactly
what women need to know. Okay.
Right. And what you have to understand, brothers and sisters, first of all, this Equality Act will basically wipe out a lot of protections and laws that are already in place. So, for example, let's just talk about abortion real quick. All your state laws right now, in all your, I want to call them red states, we have laws that protect women and the unborn. So we have laws like women's right to know. We have, in some states, laws for parental consent. We have laws, the heartbeat bills have been passed in some states. We have other laws that say you can't take a minor across state lines for an abortion. We also have laws that now protect a baby born alive after an abortion in those states where you have to treat that baby as a patient. We have laws now stopping dismemberment abortions in some states. Fetal pain, all those good pro-life bills. With this Equality Act, guess what's going to happen? Gone.
Right, they're going to go completely away.
Completely away. So now what is that doing? It's taking away the will of the people of that state and saying, your voice doesn't count.
Right.
The federal government is going to tell your state what they can and can't do.
Right.
It's terrible.
And really the main crux of this Unequality Act, as we say, there is no biological sex.
Right.
So there is no female and male. Okay. And we know, this is, forget about even the Catholic faith.
Right.
This is Mother Nature. When you start messing
with
Mother
basic
Nature.
Biology.
Right. Okay. You're going to have problems.
Already things are getting bizarre before this law comes. Because right now, I mean, when you filled out any form, whether be it at a doctor or filling out your driver's license or anything, it was, the choices were only two, male, female, right?
Right.
And now it's exploding more and more and more. I heard that in some of these more what you call blue states, like you are in New Jersey, there's about 10 choices to check off.
Right.
It's
or
like,
other.
Or other.
Because you could be in a transition.
And you're not sure what category you fall into.
And since when, we have to look at, this is not logical, okay? We know, especially in our faith, that we were created male and female, okay, in the image and likeness of God. So our faith tells us that we're not going to be discriminatory. You know, this whole Equality Act is saying, well, we have to protect people from being discriminated against. We already have those protections in place.
That's right.
With the Civil Rights Act, I think it's 1964. Many of these things are protecting.
Are there.
Right.
Well, sure. Women, first of all, the Civil Rights Act, plus there's other laws that are on the books already all across America that, first of all, protect women. You can no longer, I can remember as a kid that if a teacher, a woman teacher was pregnant, oh my gosh, that was the end of the world. She could actually back in the day lose her job.
Yes.
But now there's Equal Employment Act that they can no longer discriminate against a woman because of being pregnant.
Right.
You know, and this Equality Act, unequality like we're calling it, will erase all those protections.
Exactly. Okay.
And there's laws on the books that women have the right to own property. There's all these things that are like, say, it's kind of like the ERA horror too. It's protecting women already. We already have these protections. We have protections even at the workplace that you're supposed to be paying women the same wages as men.
Equal pay.
Equal pay. I mean, the list, Mary, goes on and on.
And why, Janet? Because women and men are equal, but they are different.
That's right.
Okay, biologically, they are different.
Yeah,
and
just our muscular structure alone.
Right.
I mean, why is it, Mary, that when you have to move something around the house, right? If it's more than 50 pounds, let's say, do you call Phil?
Exactly, of course. Because
why?
physically,
You can't do it, but he can.
My bone structure is different. Everything is different, about me.
I want to remind our people that if you have a question for me or Mary about this hot topic, be sure to let us know. We'll love to answer your questions as we're having this conversation. But Mary, another thing that should be actually frightening, listen, moms, grandparents, and all that, you should be worried about your daughters and your granddaughters, because what this is going to do, first of all, if they at a school and they go to gym class and they want to go into the locker room and change, well, under this law, there's not going to be the girls' locker room and the boys' locker room.
Right. It's everything. Again, there is no difference in male and female. Everybody's lumped
together. So there's one locker room.
Right.
Just one locker room. Right. So now you're going to have your teenage daughters in there putting on their bras after they're switching clothes, right? And they're fastening their bras while the kid next there, well, he's getting ready to go out on the track field. He's putting on his jock strap.
Right.
Is this what you want your daughters and granddaughters to see? Right. I mean, that's really what we're talking about.
There's no privacy.
No privacy.
And especially, I think this is so important for women. Right. Women have menstrual cycles. Girls are developing, especially as they're becoming adolescents.
Right.
Why should they be on display, in front of young men? I mean, that's not fair to the young men either.
No, it really isn't, because young boys, to a certain degree, they're still shy a little bit, and so are we women. Right. There's still
this is what you want to expose.
There's still a sense of what would she say? They want to, dress properly, and they don't want to get. Let's put it this way.
Right, modesty.
Right. Common modesty. I mean, I can remember, even with my own daughters. I mean, we didn't all get dressed in front of each other at home. You went into the bathroom and got changed. Like even me growing up as a kid. We didn't get dressed in front of our father, for goodness sakes.
No, never.
You went into your bedroom and closed the door, or into the bathroom, closed the door.
You have the right to
sense
privacy.
Of privacy.
Right.
This erases all privacy. Locker rooms, bathrooms, you just go down the list.
And we can see, Janet, with the women's sports.
Oh,
okay. And this is another huge issue that is in the news now, because, biological males who are transgender have the right to be on girls' athletic teams, and they're competing with girls, and girls are going to lose.
That's right.
Because biologically, you can say you are equal, okay, but it just isn't true.
Well, just look at certain sports, Mary. Like, for example, field and track, right? You're going to run, what is it, the 50-yard dash, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. If that's a transitioned biological male that's transitioned to female, and he's on the track team, okay, he's going to beat that girl. He's going to beat that biologically correct girl. He's every time.
Basketball. Okay.
Oh, basketball's another one.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, soccer.
Well, and there are, there's a lot of women's basketball teams. There's even professional women's basketball. So now a transitioning male who is maybe 6'9" can play on women's basketball. Now, I'm sorry, the men or women in the United States
Right.
who are 6'9" are far and few, but the amount of males that are 6'9" are quite a few. I mean, I had brothers alone. I'm 2 brothers. They're both 6'3".
Right. And all the progress that women have made in women's sports. I remember when I was in high school, Title IX had just started.
Right.
And women, were allowed to have their own sports teams and compete within them, within their own group.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And now that's all out the window. What happens if you've been preparing for sports your whole life and you get into high school and you're ready to, be the best, and all of a sudden a guy comes in and, blows you right out of the water.
Transition as a girl.
Right, exactly.
And then what's going to happen then? Here's another step, Mary. College scholarships. So the very same women in high school who now are trying to compete and be, have a coach look for them and offer them a college scholarship, that's going to go out the window too.
Exactly.
Okay. So this is, like I said, they're calling it the Equality Act. We call it the Unequality Act. And brothers and sisters, you have to do something about this now because this bill has already passed the House of Representatives.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi and her cohort have passed it. It's now over on the Senate side. Now, Chuck Schumer has not decided on bringing it to the floor for a vote as of yet. Because right now we're kind of lucky, Mary. We've got a little breather here. It's Holy Week. We could go this. And I think for the next 2 weeks, they're not in session.
Right.
But I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, a little bit past that, they're going to be back in session, and it won't be long before this bill comes out of committee and onto the full Senate for a vote. Now, we've got a major problem here now because right now we got a 50-50 split.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, in the last few bills that went by the Senate, Kamala Harris broke the tie.
Right.
And that's the danger we have right now. So what do we need? We need you to contact your Senate representatives now. Whether you think they're going to vote for the bill or not, you got to let them know your voice because there are some Democratic senators that are not as far left as Chuck Schumer and the rest of his cohort.
And remember, it's all about language. This is what they've done with abortion too. It's always a woman's right to choose and,
reproductive health care.
Right, reproductive health care. Right. Okay, it's all masqueraded by this nice language. Everybody wants equality. Right. Okay, right? I want equality. Right. Everybody wants that. It sounds good. But what does it mean? What do they mean by equality? Right. Okay. Yeah. And this bill, is so dangerous, not just, for women's sports, but even within healthcare. Okay. Yeah. It just goes into every area that you will no longer be able to say, I'm a female, you're a male. Okay. Right. There's no such thing. It's all about gender identity and, sexual orientation. Everything has been wiped out.
Well, and don't think this isn't going to affect Catholic and Christian schools.
Exactly. Right.
Catholic and Christian businesses.
Right.
You still have that poor baker out in Colorado. There's another case coming now up through the courts against him now for the similar thing. Remember, he didn't want to make a cake for a same-sex marriage, right?
Correct.
Well, guess what? Now they're challenging him because he didn't want to make a cake for a celebration of a transgender reassignment of somebody.
Right.
He said, no, this is against my faith. I can't make the cake.
Well, you're going to lose your
that stuff. You're going to lose any rights to any of that. The case won't have to go to court. The case won't have to go to the Supreme Court. You'll be forced to bake the cake.
Even parental rights, I know in schools
will go
because your children will be taught the things that the Equality Act says are important, and you won't have any rights unless you pull them out of a public school, or homeschool them. But, it just is going to damage a lot of people. Right. And I think the best thing is to really educate yourself. Find out, what does this stand for? What does it say? And how is it going to affect society?
It is going to affect everybody. Mm-hmm. And what the biggest thing I find, Mary, that should be shocking everybody is when you look at our Bill of Rights and our Constitution and the things that this country was founded on.
Right.
The concept by all our founding fathers was our government of the people, by the people, and for the people was the people. The government was meant to be local. I mean, that was the whole reason why they left England and came here.
Right. So we could make our own choices.
And they had the colonies, and that each colony back in those days would govern themselves, because what was good in Virginia was not good for Massachusetts because of the state, the geography or whatever. Yeah. Well, we have states' rights here in our country where, you know, like we kid around, we have the red states and the blue states, but that's how it is, brothers and sisters, because yes, if you have more conservative values, birds of a feather want to flock together. Right. And they want to decide how they want to be governed. Right. Well, guess what the Equality Act does? It's going to eradicate all that. And all these liberal concepts and ideas are going to be forced on everybody.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it really is terrible. So we have to wake everyone up. You have to have, you know, Congress is out of session for 2 weeks. Well, you could be having these conversations at home and wake up like-minded people.
And talk to your friends. I mean, that's the thing. We have to get the news out there. What does this mean?
Right.
How will this change our lives?
Because if you pay attention,
it'll be too late.
The average person, what do they watch? They watch NBC, ABC, CBS, like your local media. Right. And on the local media, they make it sound all wonderful. Oh, this Equality Act, this is great for women. It's wonderful. It's not wonderful like we just described. And unless we start talking about what it really is about, and we have a lot of information, by the way, Mary, at our Priest for Life website. If you go to stopabortionnow.org, you can sign up for our action alerts. All the information we have on our website is how to contact your representatives, both in their local offices and in DC. Excuse me. And that's what we need to do right now. We really do. So, Mary, any more closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts, I would just say that a lot of these topics, you know, we learned this when we were doing the shows on the Catholic View. A lot of these topics, people just are not aware of, you know, whether it's the gender dysphoria or, you know, all these changes in sex, the privacy for women, you know, men and women as made in the image and likeness of God, but complementary. These are things that are important in our Catholic faith, but really, you know, dig deep and start to understand what some of these bills are saying, okay, and what they really stand for. And speak up and do something about it, because we, as citizens, you know, we have the power to change. We just can't, you know, give up and, you know, close our eyes and make believe this is all going to go away. It's very important for us to stand up.
Right. And of course, we also have to pray. And this is Holy Week. What better time than to turn to the Lord and pray.
Right. Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Jen. It was great.
And I'm coughing. I'm sorry. But Mary here is visiting me here these days in Florida. It was great having you.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Wonderful to be together.
Well, thank you for joining us today on Just Ask Janet. I'll be back tomorrow with one more show. And then the rest of the week, I won't be with you because we have special programming for Holy Week. So have a great Holy Week. Until tomorrow, thank you and God bless.
I will be